All right, we're back. Graveyard Shift Movie Podcast, episode number 102. This week, we're checking out a movie that, if you listen to our second year anniversary episode where we listed our top 10 horror movies, that came out last Sunday when you're listening to it. That's today, Tyler. It's going to come out in a couple hours.
Nice.
But if you listen to that, we're watching a movie that I didn't have in my top 10, but I mentioned as an honorable mention. We're checking out Evil Dead from 2013, which doesn't have anything to do really with the other three. It's kind of a movie on its own. None of the it's not like there's no Ash, and that's it. Ash. There's not like they recast it and redid it. This is just kind of a remake. The way I always see it is like they took Evil Dead that became this series of sort of, wacky and comical thing, and they were like, what if it was just like straight up scary and violent and stuff and no comedy? And that's what they did with this one. What's up?
I went into it waiting for some comedy.
Yeah, that's probably better. If you went into it being like, all right, here we go with this shtick, and then it just winds up being like, nah, not today.
Your sister's getting raped in hell. Yeah. I was like, what? Damn.
Yeah. The closest they come to comedy is the line before that, I think, where she's like, why don't you come down here and let me suck your cock, pretty boy? That's like the closest they get to a ha-ha, I think. But Evil Dead from 2013, this is, I've seen this before. I think Tyler, this is his first time watching it.
Yes.
So I'm going to give this one a solid 8, Tyler. Solid 8. What are you going to give this one? First watch, first opinions.
Just so so we're on the same page. I liked the movie, but as far as story goes, I'm going to give this one a 5.
That's weird to me.
So let me explain.
Okay.
Like, I thought the jump scares was good. I thought like the effects were good.
Uh-huh.
I thought like cabin in the woods type atmosphere great, but I felt like there was no way they could win, and without the hope of winning. Because I mean, I'm not, I'm not trying not to spoil because we haven't done spoiler warning yet. But without there being a way out, it doesn't seem like a story to me. It just is depressing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, literally in the first 2 minutes of the movie, you know it has to be done because of the way it opens, because it shows you like the past, I'm guessing.
Uh-huh.
So you know like how you get out of the situation.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, well, all right, but like, I don't know. It's like if they didn't show you that,
yeah,
I would have given it more, I think. But like, I felt conflicted. I watched the whole thing and I was like, this seems great, this is cool.
Uh-huh.
Like the story, I just kept thinking about it and I was like, huh. And then later on, something else happens and I'm like, well, this doesn't make any fucking sense at all then. So, I don't know.
Yeah. All right, well, hey, spoiler warning for Evil Dead 2013. If you've never seen it, we're going to ruin everything about it. So, you've been warned. Yeah, it does. So, the weird thing, the other Evil Deads, it was always weird because as soon as they were a Deadite, which I don't remember when they started calling them Deadites. It must have been the second one, because I don't think they mentioned it in the first one. But they never mentioned Deadites in this movie. They just become possessed.
They just are. Yeah.
Once they were, it was like, all right, that's it for them. They were just done after that. And then in the second one, Ash ends up being a Deadite, and then like throughout the movie, he would turn into like a deadite, and I don't remember how it had to do with like a necklace or some shit. Maybe it was the necklace he gave like his sister or girlfriend. I don't remember which one it was, but and he was brought back just by like the power of a necklace, and that was the only time that they ever did that. Yeah, and then this movie has the thing where at the beginning they get the daughter and they kidnap her and put her down in the basement of the cabin, and they burn her alive because her soul is, there's no way getting her back. So they're like, we just have to put you out of your misery and, burn to release this thing, which I have always liked because they like have her tied up and they're like pouring the shit on her. She's like, what are you doing? And then she's like, I'm going to eat your soul, Dad. And you're like, what? And she's like, you motherfucker. And just instantly turns or whatever. I've always liked that reveal.
Please stop. I will rip your soul out, Daddy.
I'll rip your soul out, you pathetic fuck!
But yeah, so they like burn her alive because they're like, there's no way getting her back. And then later on, they're like, or we could bury them alive.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why didn't the other family try that first? Instead of just because I don't think that was like, I don't know how long ago they did that, but I don't think it was that long because the smell of it and stuff was still lingering. And those cats that I presume were from that ritual they did were down there still, and they weren't like decayed.
That's a question too. Is like the current people.
Okay.
They didn't do any of this. They didn't tie her up to a post. Nothing like that. They're like, hey, we'll just burn the house down with her in it. There's no dead cats. There's no spells.
At least we didn't see it. We saw the old lady with like cards laid out in front of her, and then they poured gas on her and burned her up.
Yeah, but the second time,
they burn her up, but then they just blow her head off with the shotgun.
Yeah,
and it was like, well, did you need both? Like, it wasn't very strict. Like, listen, you gotta shoot her too.
So, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I liked everything in the movie. Like, I did. It's just the story just left these big gaping holes. Like, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I never focused on that. I always liked the excuse for why they don't leave. Like, because every movie you're like, why don't these people fucking leave? And in this movie, it's like they give the story with the sister is a drug addict and she's, they're coming out here to get her clean and she's going through these withdrawals. And so she's making up and trying to do anything she can to get them to, let her leave. And that's why, later when she gets in the thing with the trees and stuff, the lady's like, I'm pretty sure she did this to like, because she's just trying anything she can to get back to civilization. So she like puts her arm in thorns and, gives herself cuts and stuff. So I've always liked that. That's why they're not immediately like, all right, let's go. Because this girl is just, they're trying to cure this chick or get her through her withdrawals or whatever. Yeah. Some of the acting in this movie is a little questionable.
I hate the nurse lady. Like,
oh yeah,
like the teacher guy. I thought was good, which is weird because I figured I'd hate him.
I mean, he straight up was the guy from Cabin in the Woods, except he wasn't a stoner. Like he looked at. Also, I read a weird thing where apparently that guy decided to do this movie with like those glasses and long hair to encompass like the feeling of how the people in the 80s movies looked like. And I was like, I can't remember a single person in that 80s movie who had long hair. Like, except for the women. Because there was only two dudes in the first one. There was Ash, and Ash had the Ash hair. It's just black. And then I can't remember the other guy's name. He might have had long hair. But I don't remember. But I was like, none of them were known for their long hair. I was like, that's a weird little tidbit, but whatever. But yeah. Oh yeah. By the way, I do this anytime I can remember to do it. That nurse chick, she's making her second appearance on the podcast. She was in Cloverfield. She was one of the main I think she might have been one of the two people that lives. I think she might have lived through that whole movie. So she was in Cloverfield. And then the second person making an appearance is Mia, the main chick. She was the main girl in Don't Breathe, which this guy, Fede Alvarez, also directed that. So he directed this movie and then did Don't Breathe with her afterwards. So this is her second appearance as well.
Ironically, I like this more than I did Don't Breathe.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this more than I like Don't Breathe.
You know,
I like Don't Breathe, too.
The crazy thing about this movie,
Okay,
and which might be holding it back some, is that there's no explanation. And I feel like...
The explanation is literally the guy who read the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, it's an evil book, blah, blah, blah. But, like, and from, watching the others, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, give some background, right?
Yeah, I will say, comparing the first one, and it's been a while since I watched the first one, but from what I remember, that first one did a pretty good job. That first one's a little slower to get going, if I remember. This one, it seems like this guy likes doing this type, because Don't Breathe's the same way. Where Don't Breathe, it gives you the introduction, and then they're immediately trying to rob that guy's house. In this movie, it gives you the introduction, and like 15 minutes in, she's driving through the rain, and she sees that, and it, shit hits the fan. So it seems like that's what he likes to do. That original Evil Dead, I seem to remember, did a really good job of explaining the Necronomicon before everything happened, because it had the audio tape that they found in the basement of the guy being like, I've been messing with this book and now my wife is possessed, and and they explain everything about the Necronomicon. And I think the other guy in that movie is like, oh, what kind of weird joke is this? And so he reads the book. But yeah, this movie, they don't even call it the Necronomicon at all. I think they might call it the Book of the Dead throughout, if they call it anything. But yeah, they don't really explain it. And maybe that's because he's assuming people know already, like if they're coming to see this. But I don't think you should do that, because those Evil Dead movies are pretty old. So I'm sure there's people who went and saw this without even knowing that this was based off of these movies from the 80s or whatever.
Let's be honest, we could have done without the 3 to 5 minute shot of her painting a picture for no fucking reason, or like sketching out the. There's a part where she's like sitting on the car hood and she's drawing the cabin. Yeah. And it's like a 3 to 4 minute scene of her just. And I'm like, yeah, you could have just put story here instead. Yeah. And
the only thing
we need story.
As I was, because she's sitting on that rusty car, and I was like, is that the car from Evil Dead that they come in? That's all I could think about. But I didn't see anywhere that it was, but I imagine that's probably what that was meant to be. But I'm not sure. But yeah, I've always. We'll get into the movie a little bit. So some of the acting is a little questionable, which doesn't bother me terribly. We've seen a lot worse. That one.
I would say it's good overall.
Yeah. The one character, David's girlfriend, is totally a waste of a character. Like, she has a cool scene later. But, she must have maybe 2 or 3 scenes. I saw they scrapped a lot of her dialogue. Like, they were supposed to have a whole scene of her and David talking about how they met and, all this stuff. But,
well, that's the whole fucking movie, though, because, like, it just bugs me. I'm a fan of, elevated horror. So, it's... when things don't make sense or they don't even allude to things.
I gotta tell you, out of all the elevated horror we've watched, maybe 25% of it has made sense. So that...
But like, okay, so they were friends back in the day?
Yeah.
And then something happened where dude just left?
Apparently, yeah, he split.
10 years ago or whatever?
I guess. And it's not even like he split and like got some big business where he split and got a garage job in Chicago. Yeah.
Like, and
you know what? There is the thing where his mom was like crazy, and he was always afraid that him or Mia would wind up. So there might be something where like he left because he didn't want to be around that situation. But
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, and there's no anything like the movie starts off with the past, like 6 months ago. Let's say, or
I'm
a year
pretty
ago.
sure that guy who grabs that girl behind the tree is Ted Raimi, by the way. Which I'm not sure, but it looked like him. Which I don't, because Sam Raimi didn't have anything to do with this, but I wonder if they threw Ted in there. It's like,
It's close enough.
yeah.
But like, you go straight into these thing, and he just shows up, and you're like, has his girlfriend, and he's like, oh, you'll love him or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just a super weird, kind of cringe, and you meet like a hot nurse chick, who for some reason the girlfriend thought was a doctor, but wasn't. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
and then it was like, is that an insult to call her a doctor, but she's actually a nurse? Because like the chick kind of seemed offended,
yeah, and it's like you're like, oh, okay, they're a couple. Are these other two a couple?
I couldn't.
No
Yeah,
mention of it.
I was like, are they together? Or are they still just friends? But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, apparently that dude split, and it seems like everybody, and by everybody I mean the nurse chick was really trying to be friendly, and then the sister kind of. Which to be fair, there's that scene where they're like once they're inside the cabin. She's like, what was that lullaby Mom used to sing us? And she's trying to like reminisce about old times. And the dude's like, you don't need to be thinking about this stuff.
Yeah.
And he just shuts her down. And that's when she kind of gives him shit where she's like, she used to think I was you sometimes when she was near the end of her stay at the hospital or whatever. And and then the other dude is just not even like throughout the movie. Every time, like, she'll mention one time, your friend's down there cleaning something up, and he's be like, what friend? I don't have, he's like, that guy hasn't thought of us in 10 years or whatever. So he's not even trying.
Why is he there?
He's there because he's friends with the sister.
I'm sorry, if you're friends with a junkie who tried to kill
I gotta be-
and you did this like 3 times or whatever,
I don't
the bridge would be burned.
know if she ever tried to kill herself.
She did. She
She
died.
OD'd that one time, but yeah, I don't know if that's I gotta be honest though, I'm on that dude's side. Like if someone I knew like was just like and split in 10 years wasn't saying it, I'd be like, all right, well, fuck you, yeah. I don't-
People who ditch out on podcasts and go 30 minutes away for the weekend.
yeah.
No God.
All right. But yeah. And then the other thing I don't like, and this is kind of a big spoiler near the end, like I said.
Well, we can wait until we get to the end if you want.
Yeah. I've never liked the fact that at the end they do the big twist where they kill David and then all of a sudden Mia is the main star. Which it just seemed like David went through so much shit in that movie to get, and then at the very end they give the big climactic fight to Mia. And I guess Mia was going through her stuff too, but like it wasn't her, even though she could remember it afterwards, which I thought was interesting. I was like, oh, she remembers all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I've never liked that very much, that they kill him and then Mia becomes like the person. It just
Felt like they did too much of the I don't even know what you call it when like it shows the demon running through the woods.
I think they only did it like twice this whole movie. I was surprised because that's an Evil Dead staple. Is like showing the going through the woods. They did it at the beginning when the guy first starts reading the book. They did it they did it that other time when Mia walks into the room with the shotgun and it busts through the door. And then what was another time?
So the bus dust. Well, I think she was driving away.
Busty, dusty, rusty.
But when they bust through the door, I don't understand that one because it's obviously already there.
It's just cool looking.
Like, but like if you haven't watched the other ones, you're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, you're like, what's this thing?
Because the demons are already there. Yeah. So in my mind, I thought that was going to be Ash. and
Oh,
it just
yeah.
never was. And I was
No.
like, this is lame.
I did read that the ending, they were gonna do the same shit where Mia wins and she's walking away, and then it does and goes through the cabin and comes out, and they do the same ending with her as with Ash or whatever. But I think Sam Raimi was like, haven't they been through enough? Which is funny, thinking that Sam Raimi is the one that's like, but they've been through, He's like, come on, they've been through enough. And so he convinced them to he was like, let her win. Which, it's just funny to me that Sam Raimi was the voice of reason. He was like, You like my Sam Raimi impression? That's all it is. Gotta tell you, I don't think I could tell you how that guy sounds. I don't know if I've watched a single...
I was gonna say, is that what he sounds like? And you're like, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
We haven't even started the podcast
Yeah,
yet.
anyway, alright. Hey, so like we said, the movie starts off with this girl wandering through the woods. She gets nabbed, wakes up, tied up on a pole that we'll learn it's like underneath the cabin that the movie takes place in or whatever. And everyone's around her, and her dad is here, and he's like, listen, honey, this is for you. We have to free you and all this stuff. And she's like, what's going on, And they start dousing her in gasoline. And then finally, that's when she's like, I'm going to eat your soul, Dad. And he's like, what? And she's like, you motherfucker. Like, instantly turns. And she's screaming at him. They light her on fire. And then I believe the witch lady or the old lady might have been saying some spells at the same time as this is happening, and she's reading out of the Necronomicon that they never call the Necronomicon throughout the whole movie.
Well, that and there's an awful lot of illustrations in this fucking book. Like, that specifically lead into what they're exactly going through at the moment.
Whereas anytime it's happening, and that guy will, like, flip a page, and he'll see it, and, it'll be like, I did like, there's that part where he's like staring at the book and you can hear like whispering, and all I could think about was Cabin in the Woods. You should read it. Like the book. But yeah, so they light her on fire. She's yelling, and then the dad is he whips out a sawed-off shotgun, and he blows her head off, which, like I said, I'm not sure if you had to do that but I guess to make sure that this lady was dead.
I thought it was more of put his daughter out of pain or whatever.
It could have been. Yeah, it could have been. And clearly, because this lady, I didn't mention it, but like, she's like, where's mommy? And he's like, mommy isn't here. You killed her, remember? So like this lady, who knows how long she's been like this. But yeah, they blow her head off, and then we get the sweet ass title card where it's Evil Dead, and like the tree branches come up like the sides, and it's like, yeah, it's really cool. If you remember, I'm glad we got to this because when we watched Insidious, both me and Bag said that the intro to Insidious reminded us of Evil Dead, where Insidious like pops up and is like with like the violins or whatever. And yeah, so the title card in this movie, pretty cool. After that, we flash over to David, who will be our main character for 85% of the movie. He's pulling up in his Jeep to this cabin in the woods with his girlfriend. You have any idea what the girlfriend's name was?
Blondie.
Yeah. His girlfriend, Blondie. And they run into Olivia, who is not a doctor. She's a nurse. And she gives David a hug and gets introduced to the girlfriend. And then David walks over to Eric, who I kept calling hippie throughout my notes because he looked like a hippie, but he's not. Like,
I just call him the nerd.
Yeah, maybe he's just
He was like
nerd.
a school teacher, too. You just call him a teacher.
Yeah. He walks over to him and he's like, hey, been a long time or whatever. And the guy's like, it's 2 hours late. You've made us wait for 2 hours, And the guy's like, oh, sorry, it's traffic or whatever. And the guy's like, whatever. He's like, she's waiting back there for you. So he just blows him off. and points.
Side note: Mavs kept us waiting like 45 minutes. We don't get that mad. I don't understand.
Yeah, we're not like, ooh,
You're there for a weekend retreat, so what
Uh-huh.
does it matter if the dude's there or not? Like
Yeah.
you're there.
It's like you didn't have to wait outside. You could have went in. Like,
Yeah, because you find out in like 5 minutes from now that someone broke in and the door's open.
yeah.
So you could have looked into that instead of just sitting in your car, fucking Poindexter.
Yeah.
Sorry. You know.
So he goes back behind the cabin where we meet his sister, Mia, who, like I said, is sitting on this old rusty car that I'm pretty sure is the car from the first one. And he's like, oh, hey, you know, what's going on, druggy? He doesn't really say that, but
Yeah.
he sits next to her and he pulls out this necklace, okay? That this necklace, he says it's made from some type of bark.
Some birch or something.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Elder wood.
Yeah, and then what he says it like strengthens your willpower or something. It's
Yeah.
supposed to like it's a yeah, and so he gives it to her and you're like, well, that's I'm sure that'll be important. I'm not sure if it really is. They never really make a big deal about it, but
Well, the only big deal about it is when she breaks it and throws it at him.
that is true, yeah.
That's it. Like it's just a representation of their love or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But he gives her this necklace, and then she's like, I guess we should start. So they wind up in a circle of friendship, and she's got this packet of, what is it, heroin? Like powdered heroin?
So yeah, it's really hard to tell heroin and blow from each other.
Yeah.
Either way, it was an easy $500 worth of drugs she
So-
just poured into.
Yeah.
All I could think was there was a homeless guy at the bottom of that well going, "What?"
Yeah.
Give
yeah.
me more of that Book of the Dead.
Yeah. So,
Well, you know.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
she pours all these drugs down this well or, you know, whatever. And she's like, from here on out, I'm going cold turkey. You know, no more, you know, this or, you know, all this. We're going to get clean right here, right now. And so that is basically the premise of what they're doing out here. The sister is addicted to drugs. And so they've come out to this cabin that I guess their mom owned. There must have been like a retreat type thing for them. Because when they go, she's like, oh, they're like, oh, this place is filthy. This would break mom's heart to see all this stuff. So yeah, I'm not sure. Like, was it still the mom stuff when all that stuff happened in the basement? Like, when did the mom acquire it? When did that stuff in the beginning take place? You know? Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. But either way, this is a cabin that their mom owned, I guess. And they're going to wait out here for Homegirl to pass through her withdrawals so she can move on to clean living. Maybe even become a vegan.
You write that note down? Is that?
I didn't.
Oh.
I just, you know, it came to me.
All right, just you're glad to know that your on the spot jokes are just as bad as your
Yeah.
written.
As they go in, they say that it looks like, oh, someone broke in because the door is like messed up. So maybe that's in reference to those people. So, you know, kind of messed up. They would burn someone alive and not even their cabin. Like they just broke into someone's random cabin and went in their cellar, and burned someone
Real
alive.
question is where they find all them cats.
That was a lot of cats. Yeah, like would they spend like 2 weeks just going around to like the back of old Zaxby's and like getting them? There's always cats behind Zaxby's. You can always get a nice fried cat back there.
Good Lord.
As they go inside, this is when Mia is looking at old photos of her mom, and she asks her brother, she's like, hey, you remember that lullaby she sang us? It was like, baby, baby. And the dude's like, we don't need to be thinking about sad stuff. And Mia's like, this isn't sad stuff, you know? And he sort of is like, you know, still, we're not going to talk about it. And this is when she first throws in the stuff about, you know, when mom was sick in the hospital, she always waited for you to come by. And sometimes she thought I was you and I would play along. And, all this stuff. This is when she mentions, this is when he's like, I wanted to come, but I got that job in Chicago at the garage or whatever. So
I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of times I'm supposed to go do stuff with family. And the guy says the time was just never right. I just couldn't find it or whatever. And I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't know. There comes a point where you're just like, just don't have time, you know? So, I don't know.
All right.
I mean, you make time for your family.
Yeah. After their little talk, they're kind of on the outs. They're not, obviously they haven't been close for a long time, but they used to be. So she winds up outside and she's like painting the side of the cabin, like Tyler said. Also, there's a dog here that they call Grandpa. I don't know if that's actually his name, but he just looks like an old dog, so they might just call him that. So like Grandpa's like hanging out with her. David is sitting on the porch with Olivia and Eric, and they tell him that they came out here because it's so far away from civilization and all this stuff, and because they've made up their mind that when shit hits the fan, and it will, they're not gonna take her back to town where she can get drugs or whatever. And he's like, oh well, and he's like, we'll see how it is. And they're like, no, we've been through this before. I can't remember, that might have been when they were like, we've done this 3 other times or something. But I think they say the longest she ever lasted was 8 hours, and then that's when she broke. But they say that she can't survive another OD. And this is when the dude's like, another? And Eric is like, yeah, she OD'd on, and he's like, I didn't know, my sister almost died. And Eric was like, not almost died, she was legally dead for, however long. And so dude had no idea any of that stuff happened.
I know this plays a part later, like gives an idea or whatever. But I like the thought that it was giving her like some kind of power. Right? Like, if you think about it, she's already been dead, so she's fighting evil undead demons and stuff. Like, you think, okay, maybe she has, maybe there's something to this. But there isn't.
Yeah.
This 10-minute scene, it really just is how it explains one thing.
Yeah.
Later on, it's like, okay. Thanks, guys.
But yeah, so they're like, we're not taking her back. We're, and we need you with us on this. And he's kind of like, listen, we're already kind of on the outs. I came out here to repair my relationship with her. If she wants me to take her back, I'm going to take her back. And then we immediately cut to her freaking out and screaming. And she's like, I can't deal it with that smell. It smells so bad. And she's like throwing up. Olivia's sitting next to her, like washing her forehead with like a washcloth. She's like trying to talk to her and stuff. And then eventually they show Olivia giving her like a sedative or something. Like she's giving her a shot in like her wrist. For a minute there, I thought they were giving her like a small dose of heroin to like get her, you know what I mean? Like just a small dose to get through the night. But no, I think it was like a sedative. And they give that to her, and that finally causes her to calm down. But she's still like, I don't understand how you guys can't smell that. And this is the first line since David's girlfriend got there where she has a line where she's like, that's because there's no smell. I was like, all right, bitch, why don't you stay out of it? But yeah, she's like, it smells like death. And then this is when conveniently Grandpa the dog also smells it. Don't know why he didn't smell it when they first got there, but he smells it now. So he goes over. What's up?
How does no one else smell it?
I don't know. Yeah.
That's the real question. Is like, this lady doesn't have superpowers, guys. She's just an addict. She's a junkie.
Yeah, like, and the stuff hasn't happened to her yet. That makes her, but yeah, Grandpa goes over to the middle of like this rug, and he's like,
so weird you call him Grandpa because it's a dog.
Yeah, and he scratches on the rug, and they're like, oh, what's going on over here? So David and them move the rug, and we see a big trail of blood leading into a cellar door. And they're
Okay.
like, okay.
If you saw that, how fast are
Yeah,
you noped out of there?
that would be my Event Horizon moment.
Yeah.
Really even. Just, yeah.
Because, like, okay, hidden door, cool. Let's go see where that is.
Uh-huh.
Hidden door with a trail of blood leading to it.
Yeah.
We're like, not my problem. This is,
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
nothing invested in this.
And
Let's go.
yeah, if I didn't leave after that, I would probably definitely leave after they go down in the cellar and find it has to be 20 some odd cats burned and charred hanging from the ceiling and a book in like a plastic bag wrapped in barbed wire with a sawed off double barrel sitting next to it. I'd be like, you know what? Let's just leave all this stuff here and we'll go find a different cabin to stay in. But they don't decide to do that.
I don't understand the plastic bag.
It just looked cool when he ripped it open, I guess.
Yeah, he's like, hey, we better keep this fresh. It's like,
Yeah,
why?
yeah,
Like, there's no point to this, guys. Like,
yeah.
I guess that you couldn't see if, like, you, like, I don't
Maybe. Yeah, it might be something to do with that. But yeah, they get down there and see all this and decide these are cool souvenirs. So they bring up the book and the shotgun, and they, come upstairs and they're like, "Oh yeah, you should have seen all this crazy shit down there." And now they have this book and the shotgun. At the time, I don't think that guy knows it's a book though, because it's in the bag. It's just like a rectangle-shaped object with barbed wire wrapped around it. But yeah, they take it upstairs and they don't really do anything. Oh, later on they show them like throwing out the cats. They're like cleaning out the cellar.
Yeah, he's like cutting them into bags or whatever. That's when he
Yeah.
finds Grandpa later on.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, after they go back upstairs, we get a shot of David's girlfriend with a meat carver slicing some meat.
Well, it's an
And,
electric meat knife, but yeah.
Yeah. And as someone who has seen the movie before, I had never noticed that before, and I was like, because
Meat looked delicious, by the way.
yeah.
It was like red and bloody on the inside.
Well, yeah, you saw that, but me, I knew what was to come, and I was like, but yeah, so she's sawing up meat, and they're getting ready for dinner. As they're getting ready to eat, the long-haired dude is sitting in a room by himself, and he's staring at the book that's sitting in front of him. And this is when you start hearing the, all that shit. And that's when I could think about Cabin in the Woods to read it. And sure enough, the next thing you know, he pulls out a pair of clipper things, and he clips off the barbed wire, and he pulls the barbed wire off, and then he rips open the bag, and we get a look at the Necronomicon for the first time. I don't believe there's a face on this one.
I was gonna say it didn't look right. There wasn't a face on it.
Yeah, it was just like a book made out of. They don't even do the thing, a book made out of human flesh. They don't even say that. They really don't. They really undersell the Necronomicon in this movie. Like the original trilogy, every movie, like they were like, it's a book bound in human flesh, and it's like, got the face on the front. Yeah, and so, but he opens it up. And then immediately, when he opens the book, he's passing page after page saying, "Don't read. Don't do any of that. Like, close it now." Written in, like, big red letters and stuff.
In English.
And, yeah. And first off, it says, don't read, don't write it, and don't say it, or whatever. And Homie takes it, and he then starts to trace the letters on like or like do the thing where you do the side on the paper to like put, and I was like, does that count as writing? I was like trying to think if he was bending the rules. But then immediately,
I thought it was smart, but like think about it. If you were in that situation, right, where so you're playing a game, and you're trying to figure out the letters, right, and you're doing like this little story or whatever,
yeah,
and you're just going through and you're finding out like little. Let's not use letters. Let's use like sentence, right? You're finding words, and it's like dog, red, man, car chased, and you'd be like, the dog chased the red car or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
You would just say it like that, right? And you
Yeah.
wouldn't be like, oh, we're all gonna die now.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this was actually a pretty good way of, I mean,
Yeah. Also, I gotta tell you, because then and finally he goes like Nikto or whatever he says, and then immediately
Canada is the last word.
Yeah, he immediately cuts. It immediately cuts the camera going through the woods, and you're like, oh shit, you know. But he reads all these words, and I gotta tell you, Tyler, we would never have to worry about it happening to us, because there's no way in hell I would be able to properly pronounce any of these words this guy's saying. And that's all I could think about, because I remember there's like a thing where in Army of Darkness they like make it where you have to say exactly how it's written and exactly how it's pronounced or whatever. So
I mean, there's even a really funny joke about it, right?
Yeah.
When it was that Ash when he goes, Klaatu,
yeah. Yeah. Dog's like, you called? But anyway, yeah, he starts reading the stuff off the book, and we see, you know, the camera in the woods moving around.
What do we call that? There gotta be a term for it, right?
I don't know. I would just call it demon, I guess.
I wonder how they did it back in the day, because now you can just do it with a drone, right?
I don't know.
Like,
I remember the one at the end with it coming through the cabin and crashing in an ash or whatever. That was Sam Raimi with a camera tied on a mount in front of a bike, and he was just driving on a bike.
Really?
That's how they did that
cool.
one. So I don't know if that's how they did all of them back then, but you know, I don't know. I imagine honestly, it's probably to do with a still cam just running, and then they speed it up. That's how I would think they do it. Nowadays, it probably would be like a drone. I don't know if drones were like that 2013. If they were doing a lot of drone stuff. Seems like every movie nowadays has drone footage. But yeah, whatever. But yeah, it's moving through the woods, and then finally we get a flash of what is gonna be the Abomination's face. But we don't know what the Abomination is yet. But the Abomination also shares the same face as Mia when she's a Deadite.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if they had her play both role, like she was the Abomination too, like the face or whatever. But yeah, it shares the same face. So, you know, there's that. But it pops up the Abomination's face, and then Mia throws up again. Also she's outside, like walking in the rain. It's raining now too, and she's walking around out there. And she falls down and throws up, and when she pulls up her head and she looks over, she sees a person standing at the edge of the woods staring over at her. So, like a normal person, she goes and runs inside and immediately tells everyone that they need to leave. She's like, listen, I'm going to do this for real, but we need to get out of here. There's, you know, some weird stuff going on. And this is when Olivia and Eric, mostly Olivia, is like, we've decided we're not going to take you back. You're going to stay here and see this through. And Eric is just kind of like, yeah. He like even stumbles over his words. Like you can tell he's like, I don't know, you know. And she's like, are you guys serious, you know? And so she looks over at David and she's like, come on, you get the keys. We need to get out of here. And David is like, maybe they're right, you know, and he backs them up. You weren't sure if he was going to, but he backs them up. And this causes her to throw a fit. And she's like, you know, she starts telling him off, talking about their mom again, how, you know, he was never there for them. And then she takes that necklace he gave her and she rips it off and throws it on the ground. But then I guess she didn't break it somehow, because later on it's still perfectly intact when she puts it back on. So I don't know if David fixed it or what, but she throws the necklace off and she charges past Eric. As she does that, it shows you her hand reach down and grab the keys to the car that Olivia and them came in. Eric goes to check on her, but when he opens up the door, he sees the window and her room is wide open, and then they hear the car rev up. And so outside, Mia is making a break for it. She's just driving. It's pouring down rain. For some reason, she didn't turn on the wipers when she got in the car. So she's just driving down this dirt path with rain pouring, and she has no wipers, and she's freaking out. And she's like, "What?
Junkie, so inconsiderate."
Yeah, right. She's like, "Why am I doing this?" Yeah. She's just jacking their car, and finally, she turns on the wipers, and it clears away the water just in time for her to see the demon lady standing in front of her, and she swerves to avoid it, and she ends up landing in like a lagoon of some sort. But yeah, and she wakes up. And she can hear, like, the car sinking. And she pulls up, like, her purse that I guess she had time to grab that's in water and shit. And she pulls it out of the water.
For no reason.
Yeah. She gets out of the car. And she hears her friends calling her. But when she looks for them, she, like, looking around because she can hear them calling. It's very obvious. I forgot this was even a thing in the movie, but it's very obvious that there's someone laying down in the water in front of her. And she's like looking around, and then like the demon lady's like, and like stands up out of the water. And,
I did not. Yeah, I didn't realize that. I didn't see that.
Yeah, I was like, wait, those are shoulders. And then she came up, and I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, so she goes running away again. And eventually she winds up in this like cluster of these tree branches, but also it looks like vines off a tree that have thorns on them. Like it's a very weird place that she wound up. But she tries to go through it for some reason, which didn't seem smart to me. She's on the run, and even though she got through it with no problem, that still did not look like the fastest route to wherever she would want to go. But she decides to go straight through it. But if anyone is familiar with Evil Dead, you will know that the trees in the Evil Dead movies are a little, and they're a little on the freaky side. And so all of a sudden, the tree, wraps around an arm, and she's like, what? And then it wraps around a leg, and then eventually these thorn vine tree things have got her like this, and like the thorns are digging into her skin. And then the demon lady pops up in front of her and opens up her mouth, and this big, at first when you saw it, did you think it was a rat or something?
No, I didn't know what I thought it was.
It always looks like a rat to me, like a wet, bloody rat coming out of her mouth. But I guess it's like just more tree vine things. And she opens up, and it keeps coming out of her mouth and crawls up her leg, and then just straight up just goes up the hole. And
there's 2 holes there. What hole do you think it went in?
The urethra one.
I mean, she doesn't have a urethra, but
well, it's the, thing. I think it's still called the urethra. The urethra thing.
I don't know about that.
I don't know.
I mean, they have a uterus, so I'm gonna look it up. But
I'm looking it up as well.
I mean, honestly, you could say vagina. It's okay.
No, that's vulgar.
It's scientific.
No. Hold on.
I think it makes more sense that it went in their asshole, to be honest with you.
God damn.
Just with all the vomiting and stuff.
Urethral opening. That's what it's called. So not urethra. Urethra. What?
Oh, yeah.
Welcome
We're just showing how dumb we are
welcome
now.
to anatomy with But anyway, it goes inside of her body some way. We won't get into how it does that.
It penetrates her.
Yeah, and that will be Mia's possession. We'll learn. Not sure why they had to do that route of possession with her, because they don't need to do that with anyone else. But I guess that lady, they needed to get a tree up her.
Maybe because she was like the core. She was like the first, so they had to like do like a. I
Maybe.
don't know. It seems like the more it goes, the easier it is to just possess people randomly. Because
Yeah.
that's pretty fucking in depth. Homegirl takes like 7 gallons of vomit or whatever, right?
Yeah, what?
But Blondie is like pretty quick and slow with some
Yeah,
bite on
she
the
gets bit on
hand.
the hand, and then Eric
I,
just dies.
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
see. That's the. Well, I guess I'll wait till we get there.
But anyway, yeah, but like I'm saying, Evil Dead, that's like an iconic scene of that lady getting tree raped in the woods, which Sam Raimi has gone on to say for a long time that he kind of regrets doing that. It's just, he was out to make this shocking, thing, and then he's kind of like, um, but yeah, so I remember that. And I remember that this movie had stuff with the trees involved, but I didn't think it did the whole thing. I just thought it like had the trees beat her up. But then I was like, oh no, they did the whole they did the whole thing. So yeah, I can't remember. I swear there's another Evil Dead movie where the trees just like beat someone up. Maybe that's the second one when they kind of the first 15 minutes or so is basically just a recap of the first one because they didn't own the rights to the first one, so they had to remake it so then they could start the second one. But yeah, so
I'm trying to think of like the show or something. I've never watched the show either.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm pretty sure because the second one, that first 30 or so minutes, is the first movie. Ash showing it's just him and his girlfriend, and then the stuff starts happening, and then it shows the thing coming through the cabin and attacking him, and then he wakes up, and that's like the start of the second one. But they had to remake it because they didn't own the rights to their own movie, so they had to like make a new starting point. So that's fine. And then, funny enough, I don't think they owned the rights to the second or the first one when they did Army of Darkness. So they had to have a new starting point for Army of Darkness. I don't know why they were so bad at owning their own movies, but they didn't do very good at it.
There's a movie like that recently that was made where they didn't have permission to film somewhere. I don't remember what movie it was. So like they would literally like pull up, jump out, film, and then run off. Maybe it was Baby Driver. I don't know. It was like a really big film, but they just didn't have permission, so they would just fucking jump out, do it, and run off.
Yeah.
But this would have more context if I remembered,
Yeah.
what the movie was.
You ever watch that off track? You ever watch that movie Bad Trip, the Eric Andre movie?
No.
That movie has a really funny concept of they're doing a movie in the real world. So every conversation they have is like a conversation you would get straight out of a movie, and all the scenarios are straight out of a movie, but it's around real people, So the people are looking like, what's going, because they're in this, they've walked into this bizarre world where they're in a movie. Really funny concept. The movie's not very great, but that concept always funny of just having like a movie. They have a straight up, it's one of those scenes that you always get in movies where they're like on a bus and they're having like a very like, yeah, man, we're going to go to LA or whatever. And then Eric Andre gets up and he's like, we're going to LA, and everyone's like, what the fuck? But yeah, movie's not very good though. Anyway, yeah, she gets attacked. They do stuff to her private parts with a tree. Her friends eventually show up and they find her wrapped in these trees. Or no, they don't find her. She gets back to the cabin and she's all...
No, they find her. They go and they're at the car and they're yelling for her and they can't find her. And they, like turn the corner and she's like huddled against the...
Okay, yeah.
The bottom of the tree, but...
Yeah, because the whole... Yeah, they don't find her in the tree vines or whatever, though. Because then after that, with her wounds and everything... Olivia has this where she's talking crazy, talking about how there's a person in the woods and how the trees attacked her and all this stuff. And Eric is the first one, and I think it's because he has been in the book. He's kind of been looking around. So he's like, well, how do you know that didn't happen? Or no, he's like, how do you explain the wounds or whatever? And she's like, I'm pretty sure that she found a thorn bush and she did it to herself. You know, she's doing anything she can to leave now. David goes in the room to check on her, but she's like huddled up on her bed, and he sits next to her, and she leans over and just keeps whispering to him. And she's like, there's something in the woods. She's like, now I think it's in here with us. We need to get out of here. You know, all this shit. But David's like, bitch, you crazy. And he like, he just leaves and closes the door on her. So, you know, no one's believing her. Because once again, druggy on withdrawals.
That's like, I'm gonna be honest. If you haven't been in a situation where you've had to deal with like fucking junkies or whatever, it's like that.
Yeah.
You know, you can't believe or trust anything they say.
Yeah.
As bad as that sounds, you know, but like, literally, this whole movie could be just a fucking wild hallucination of, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, so David leaves, and then there's a scene where Mia's sitting on the bed, and she's scared, and she, like, looks over, and then she sees the demon lady in the mirror going... I forgot about that until I saw it in my notes just now, and I was like, oh, yeah, that was pretty funny. But just sitting there waggling its tail at her. Wait, its tongue at her. Eric is back to looking through the book, and when he does that, he turns the page and comes across a page of a woman who's being held down by tree branches and being inserted, much in the way that Mia was. And he lingers on it for a minute. He's like, huh, you know? And then he turns the page again. But before he can do that, Olivia comes in and is like, hey, your friend is down in the cellar cleaning out all that bullshit. You should go help him. And that's when he's like, he's not my friend, you know? But he goes down there and they like clean up, you know, this shit. David goes up with his trash bag full of dead cats or whatever to take it outside. And when he's outside, he starts calling for Grandpa, the dog, who has been missing for the last 15 or 20 minutes in this movie. But Grandpa's not coming. So he's like, hey, you know, what's going on? And then he sees like some blood, and it leads into this hole. And he looks and he sees Grandpa like laying in the hole.
Name this fucking dog Grandpa. It makes it so weird.
He sees him laying in the hole. At first, it looked like it sounded like he was still alive, because it sounded like he was over there like
whimpering.
You know, yeah. But
he's not.
Yeah, David goes into the tool shed, and just conveniently there happens to be a little piece of wood where he lifts it up, and there's a perfect where he can see down in the hole, and he pulls up Grandpa, and Grandpa is not good. Grandpa is dead, and he's bloodied and beaten. And David's like, what happened? What happened? And he looks over and he sees a hammer with blood on it sitting there. And then he gets a vision of Mia beating the dog to death as maybe an excuse for them to leave. And so now David is pretty pissed off because now he thinks that, you know, Mia's got so far gone that she beat the dog to death. You know, trying to get back to civilization. So he goes to confront her, but she's in the bathroom taking a shower, and she's taking the shower, and she has turned the heat up on the shower so hot that also what is that? It's like a water boiler or whatever, where it's got the flames coming out.
I was gonna ask if you think that was magic, or if you think it was like normal.
It seemed like that's how they controlled the temperature of the water, because as she turns it hotter, the flames get. So I was like, but I don't know what that was, but she has it turned up to the max, to the point that her skin is starting to bubble. She's boiling herself, and David is trying to kick down the door because he's like, you know, he doesn't know this is happening on the other side. He's just like, hey, what are you doing, you know? And
he killed my dog.
Yeah. He kicks down the door, and they see Mia, who is now slumped down on the ground, and her cheek literally goes and like pops.
It's really weird, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, all right.
And then we immediately cut to David driving in the Jeep with Mia in his passenger seat, with like the slobber leaking out of her mouth. And he's trying to get her to a hospital, but when they get to the bridge to cross over to the other side, of course, it's been raining this whole time, so there's a big old flash flood that has blocked off the entire bridge, and so there's no way to drive across. So they have to go back to the cabin and just try to treat her the best they can. As they do this, Eric looks in the book, and he sees another chapter about pouring boiling water onto the body. And at that point, I'm pretty sure Eric is like, all right. I think Eric at that point knows he messed up. Like, he's done something bad. They go to the living room where they're all having a meeting about what they should do. And they're like, we just need to stay here. We got to treat her. The rain should go down soon. It'd be like 6 hours so we could even leave. All this stuff. And then Mia comes walking into the room with the double barrel shotgun that they found in the cellar. And they're like, hey, what are you doing with that? Why don't you put that down? But she's like twitching, and she points the gun at David. And David's like, hey, let's put the gun down. Let's not be crazy. But she fucking shoots the gun and shoots David in the shoulder, which I will call bullshit in a second, because, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I heard him wrong, but did David say, or did he not say, when he's sitting there afterwards, he's like, you guys need to help me get the slug out of my shoulder?
He says shrapnel. Okay.
I was like, did that dude just say, are they trying to convince us that that's how shotguns is a slug? And the sorry, so shrapnel. Okay, I'll take that. Also, that gun probably should have done more damage.
What is a shrapnel from a shotgun?
No, it was pellets, isn't it?
Well, I mean, BBs, right?
Yeah,
It's shot, so they're small little balls.
Uh-huh.
So one of the Blondie's only lines in the whole fucking movie is, I got tweezers in my purse.
Yeah.
She runs off the ground. Sorry, I'm still kind of mad at ladies in this movie.
No, yeah. So yeah, she shoots him in the shoulder. The door busts open, and then she's just like, just yelling at the sky. And she drops the shotgun, and then she says the line that it was like in all the trailers and everything, I'm pretty sure, which is, you're all gonna die tonight. And it's like layered over. It's like multiple voices saying it, and then she falls out. Yeah, and so that's pretty cool. The nurse lady, Olivia, goes over and tries to grab the gun since she dropped it, but Mia wakes back up and grabs her before she can get the gun and flips her over onto her back and gets on top of her, and then just pukes up like gallons of blood vomit onto her face. And it was really gross. And then later when she's sitting there, you can see the chunks in her hair and shit. Yeah, it was pretty gross. She throws up in her face, and then she crawls down into the cellar. And so they shut the door real fast and keep her down there. They're freaking out. They're like, man, this is, crazy or whatever. David is like, go get some more sedatives or whatever. We need to get her to sleep or whatever. But Olivia's like, I already gave her enough to like make a horse sleep for 8 hours or some shit. She's like, more will kill her. And he's like, well, we got to do something. So she's like, okay. So she goes to get more sedatives. As she does that, she opens up the medicine cabinet, and when she's getting the medicine, it then slowly, the wind starts to close it. And as it does, she looks up and sees herself with her face like split, and she's like, what? And she flashes out of it. The bathroom door shuts and locks. And so
it also makes a face at her and goes, ah.
Yeah.
For no reason.
The door shuts. And then the book of the Necronomicon, for some reason, is in the bathroom with her. Not sure who was in there taking shit reading the Necronomicon, but somebody was. And what's up?
I was in there shitting,
Oh yeah,
reading the
yeah.
Necronomicon.
And she sees it, and the pages are flipping by themselves, and then we see it stops on a page where a person is holding a knife and their own face in their hand, and it's like, oh, So she's like, I gotta get out of here. So she grabs the needles and stuff, and she goes to leave, but as she just stops in like dead step, and then it shows, and she's seizing up, and then she starts pissing down her legs, which is pretty gross, and it's like steaming and shit. Yeah, it's pretty gross. This somehow causes all the lights and shit to go out in the cabin. So Eric and David know something's up. So Eric comes to look for Olivia. He's like, Olivia, you all right? And he opens up the bathroom and comes in. He turns on the light, but water is seeping through into the bulb, so it's just like flashing or whatever. And as he's doing this, you can already hear like that, and you're like, oh, this doesn't sound good, Eventually he gets over to the bathtub, he pulls aside the curtain, and Olivia, who's sitting on the ground, looks up at him, and she's taken a broken piece of glass from the drug cabinet and is sawing her face open. And it was like, oh, and homie Eric then gives my favorite line of the movie, where he goes, oh my God, why would you do that? And he's like, I'm out of here, and takes one step back, slips on like blood, or I saw you said skin, but it might have been either one, and slips and just like straight back onto the toilet.
I felt pain in my body when I saw this.
Yeah, straight onto the toilet. He's like, oh my God. Olivia gets on top of him, takes the shard of glass, and stabs dude in the chest. Later, we'll see they take off his shirt to like patch him up. It is a nasty looking stab wound. Like, it's a good couple inches, and like just blood pouring out of it, and they're pouring like alcohol and shit. It's like, it's gnarly looking stab wound. So she stabs him with the glass, and then she pulls out the needle that she was gonna use for the drugs, and just starts stabbing him in the face repeatedly, until eventually he kicks her off and she hits her head on the bathtub, and so she's kind of out of it for a minute. And then we get a close-up shot of Eric pulling the needle that's stuck underneath his eye out of his eye. Yeah, it still gets me watching. I'm like, oh my God. He pulls it out. Olivia starts to come to again, so Eric takes a piece of the toilet that is broken off, or it might have been the sink. Yeah. And he takes it and goes over and just bashes her head in, and Olivia is the first straight up dead. No coming back for Olivia. So Olivia is dead. Outside, David and the girlfriend start to try to patch up his wound. Like I said, it looks real nasty. This is when Eric is like, listen, I made a mistake. I read from the book. I released something evil and dead. He didn't say that, but I wish he did. So yeah, he tells them that he read from the book, and like this is all his fault and all shit. And David is like, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. All right." And then he tells his girlfriend, he's like, "Listen, I need you to go inside and get water and sugar." And she's like, "Okay."
That's how you make glucose, which is supposed to help you,
Okay. So she goes in the cabin to get some water and sugar. And after she gets it, as she's on her way out, she looks over and the cellar door has been it's kicked open. And she's like, huh? And then she starts hearing Mia, back to sounding like her normal self, going, guys, why am I down here? And this bitch decides to go and see Mia sitting at the bottom of the stairs, like with her back turned to her, doing this cry. And she decides to walk all the way down the steps into the cellar. And I was like, you deserve anything that happens to you at this point. Like, it's been a while because most of the movies, it seems like a lot of the movies we watch nowadays, like their whole thing is like, they make fun of people who do character decisions like this. It's been a while since we've seen just like a straight up dumb where someone's just walking down the stairs. I was like, what are you doing? You're not allowed to do this. She goes all the way down there. And then finally, as she's like all the way there, Mia starts talking in her demon voice again. And she turns around and she's, all fucked up. The girlfriend tries to get out of the cellar, but steps break. She manages to like get half of her body outside, but Mia just grabs her by the legs and pulls her back in, and she blacks out. Not a fan of the blackout cuts. That I think they might do 2 or 3 of them in this movie, but she pulls them and she hits, and then it's just like black for like a couple seconds, and then she wakes back up. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it. She wakes up to Mia licking up her leg, and
creepy,
and she's getting closer to the private parts, and Mia grabs the girlfriend grabs a box cutter that was just sitting on the ground next to her, grabs it and clicks it all the way open, and she starts doing the thing Bags does when he's like pointing at him, but she holds it, and Mia just bites her on the hand. And the girl immediately drops the box cutter. And then Mia gets the box cutter and licks it like it's a lollipop. And her tongue just splits in the middle. Yeah. And it's like, oh my God. She's like laughing at her. She splits her tongue in half. David shows up and is able to pull the girlfriend to safety. This is when she does come down here, let me suck your dick, or your cock, pretty boy. And then he's like, Mia, stop talking. Yeah.
Why can't she leave the basement?
I don't know. I think she can. I just guess maybe she's playing with him.
Like, because there's a couple times, like, before that even, she looks in there, and, like, the blondie looks down there, and she's just sitting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are you not just I'm out,
Does she ever leave the basement?
And not by choice.
Yeah, because they go down there to get her, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's because of the witch stuff that happened down there? Maybe there's like a spell? I don't know. Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, this is when he's like, Mia, stop talking like this. And she's like, Mia isn't here. Your sister's being raped in hell. And it was like, oh God. Yeah, so they close the cellar. This time they chain it up with a bunch of chains. And after they do that, they go in a room where Eric is sitting there. And they're like, Eric, what are you doing? And he's like, I thought I could burn it. And it shows the book just sitting in the fire, and it's not burning. Which I think is new for this movie, because I'm pretty sure Evil Dead 2, or it might have been the first Evil Dead, that's like how he wins. He like burns the book in a fireplace.
Yeah.
So
ever since Hereditary, I ain't burning books.
Yeah. So yeah, he tried to burn the book, but it doesn't work. He's like, this thing won't let us go, David or Eric, one of them, reads more about the book and talks about how the demon force or whatever that's doing this, once it has consumed 5 souls, the abomination will rise up from hell to do some abomination stuff. You ever heard that song Abominator by Doyle from the Misfits?
I don't think so.
It's a good song.
I'm a big Misfits fan too.
Yeah, he doesn't sing it, but he's the guitarist, But yeah, I like that one. That's like the only song I know from Doyle.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm trying to think of anything I know from Doyle. And
yeah. But yeah, so we get this, with the 5 souls, with the Abominator. I guess, spoiler, I guess it counts as soul even though Mia is safe? Because there's only 5 of them, right? Or do they count the girl that got burned up in the beginning?
That's what I don't understand. Is like that's a huge point of the movie that I was very mad about. Is that I don't get. They're like, you need 5 souls to bring forth the demon or whatever his name is, Dominator. And it's like, well, there's only 5 of them total.
Yeah.
So it's like everyone has to die for that to happen. Right? Like,
yeah.
Unless they're counting Grandpa.
Oh, fuck. I didn't even think about that. Maybe they counted Grandpa. I don't know. But yeah, that's it. So it could be they counted Grandpa. It could be, I guess it counts because Mia was possessed for a long time. But that does, she got her soul back. That doesn't seem to count. But, or it could be that girl they burned at the beginning. I don't know. But anyway, that's a little bit more of like, all right, this is, we got to watch out for this. The Abomination, got to watch out for him. In the kitchen, David's girlfriend is washing out the bite on her hand, and she's like popping out these black little beads or whatever.
It looked like teeth or something.
Yeah.
It was something.
Yeah, she's like plopping them out and shit. But it like it's spreading like on her hand. She sees it and she's like, "Oh shit." Eric is meanwhile is telling David that he thinks they have to kill Mia. It's the only way to like spare her from whatever's happening. Eric or David is like, maybe she just got like a virus, man, like all them cats or whatever down there. And Eric is like, what type of fucking virus makes you carve up your face, man? It was like, oh shit, you guys thought COVID was bad. Wait till I introduce you to fucking come up with a catchy virus name for Evil Dead. Let's move on to something else.
Evil Dead virus name. That's what you try to think of?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, because you have like smallpox, COVID, avian flu,
Down syndrome.
gonorrhea, like gonorrhea, but with gonorrhea.
Gonorrhea.
Because the black goo's just everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway. But yeah, the dude's kind of in denial.
I got one.
Okay.
I got one. The perfect.
All right.
So you go HIV, right?
I do.
Instead of HIV, you could go "She raped me."
God damn. Jeez.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
Maybe not that good.
Yeah. Yeah, so dude's kind of in denial. He's like, I don't know. We cut back over to the girlfriend who's in the kitchen, and the like almost her whole arm it's got up to like the forearm, and her arm's like twitching. It's going on a it's not her arm anymore. Much like Evil Dead 2 when Ash's hand gets all possessed and shit. So she looks over to the electric meat carver thing, and she picks it up, and it pans over, and we see Mia, who's watching her from like under the cellar, and she's like, "Don't do it, you bitch! Don't you fucking do it!" And but the blonde chick just says, "Fuck you," and then she just straight goes for it, just through the bicep, like just slicing off her arm. It's like, oh my god. Not sure if that thing could cut through bone, but sure, whatever. And she cuts all the way through her arm, until Eric and them come in to find her with like just a single tendon still attached in the arm. And she's like, I had to do it. And then it like pops and the whole arm plops off or whatever. So they give her a tourniquet, and try to patch her up. This is when David is like, listen, it's going to be fine, And Eric is like, she just cut her fucking arm off. It's not, And I get, in the situation, Eric is like, it's not fine. She just cut her arm off. But at the same time, I'm like, man, David's just trying to like get through. You know what I mean? He's just trying to get through this, and you're over here like, what are you talking about? We're not gonna. Yeah. So I get both sides, but it's kind of like, just go with it for a second, man. She just cut her arm off. Back to the book. This is when they throw in this, because before it was like, oh, we got to kill her, But now they read this where it says, to purify a person's soul, you have to either have a live burial, burn them alive, or dismemberment. You have to chop up their bodies and shit. And that's the first time they mention that. So keep that in mind. David, still in denial about all this, is saying that, this is when he mentions his mom died in a mental asylum. She was completely crazy by the end. He was saying that he was always worried him or Mia would wind up like that. He's like, maybe Mia just needs a doctor. Maybe she's just, And Eric is like, you're in fucking denial, man. You just can't do it, even though you need to do it. So Eric is...
It was really weird how fast that dude changed to like, hey, just kill your fucking sister, right? Like,
yeah.
His friend for 10 years, blah, blah, blah. And then now all of a sudden he's like, just kill her.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
Yeah.
It really bugs me.
So Eric is planning to just burn down the whole cabin with Mia and stuff in it. So he's like, I'm going to go finish this and do what needs to be done. But as he says that, it pans over and we see the blonde girlfriend standing there, who is now a deadite herself. She has a nail gun, and she shot herself in the face a couple times, so she has nails like sticking out her face. And then she just starts lighting them both up with nails. She's like, pop, 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 pop. David takes cover behind the couch. Eric ends up just like getting caught out in the open, and he's just like, ah. It's just like putting his hand up. He gets littered with nails.
Littered with nails.
Yeah, that's what I said.
What does that mean?
It means you got littered with nails, man. They all littered them.
Just peppered with the nails.
No, littered. David sees the shotgun sitting over there, so he goes to try to grab it real fast. But the girlfriend now has a crowbar, and she hits David and gets him down. And I don't appreciate how many times, because she's hitting this guy in the back over and over again. It did not look like it hurt David at all. Like, he didn't make any like he was just like getting hit and like not. Also, you get hit in the back with a crowbar 4 times, full. You ain't getting back up.
The thing is,
now
you'll know this in a minute.
Yeah.
But what bugged me is that you had that happen, and you're like, well, maybe she just isn't hitting him that hard. She's, let's be honest, she's a female. She's not as strong as a man.
Yeah, and she only has one arm. Maybe it's not her dominant arm.
Yeah. But then moments later, she hits a guy in the hand, and it fucking explodes.
She goes over to Eric, and he goes, ah, and then
it just explodes.
Dude,
I'm like,
Eric gets beat up so much in this movie. He's been stabbed in the face with needles, stabbed in the chest with glass, littered with nails from a nail gun. And then his hand has now been split in half by a crowbar. And then she hits him in the head a couple times. And basically, I think cracks like his skull probably, because he starts bleeding. And he's going to die in about a second. And she picks up the crowbar and is going in for like the death blow. But David managed to get to the shotgun, and he shoots her other arm off. She turns around, and now she's back to being just a regular girlfriend. And she's like, David, why are you hurting me? And she's like, my face hurts, David. And she like crawls over to him, and she dies. That's it for that girl. Which that's usually deadites. I mean, it takes a lot to kill him, and that girl just got her arm blown off. Also, I've always been curious about how because deadites always do it where they're possessed, and then it'll be like them like, what's going on, and they'll act like the person. And I've always wondered if that is just them acting, or if they allow that person to come back for a second and just be confused about where am I, and then come back or whatever.
Like the ultimate FU or whatever.
Yeah, to be like, what's going on, Yeah, and so it's almost like a final where that Deadeye has won. I mean, it's taken over this lady, and this lady's dying. And so for its last act, it leaves its body and lets her come back so she can experience herself dying with the pain of all the nails and stuff in her face. It's kind of messed up to think about it that way, but yeah, she crawls over to him and dies. And then Eric laughs for some reason, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just because he's starting to go crazy. But that's the only scene, because then after that, he's back to being normal. And he doesn't, like, get possessed there. He just, like, he just laughs there. I don't know what that was about. David gets Eric outside. He says that he's going to go and finish this. And so he goes back inside and has a random can of gasoline. I don't know where they had it, but it's here now. And he's pouring it all over the cabin. And then he's about to throw the lighter, and which, while he's standing in the middle of it all, he is about to throw it down. Instantly would have burned him up, but whatever. And he's about to throw down, but then he starts to hear Mia doing the lullaby that she mentioned from earlier, and so he can't do it. So he comes up with another plan, and he goes into the tool shed and he whips back the curtain, and we see a chainsaw, and then he looks up and he doesn't get the chainsaw or whatever. So he gets a car battery and these needles and all this shit, and basically he's making a homemade defibrillator kit. And his plan is he goes down and he's gonna get Mia and then bury her alive and use the defibrillators to try to bring her back, with the intent being that now her soul has been purified by this ritual. So he gets all his stuff together, and then he gets the sedative shit to go down into the cellar to put her to sleep, to take her up and bury her alive. He goes down the cellar that now is partially flooded because it's been raining so much, I guess, and the water has seeped in. And he can't find her. So he goes into this other room in the cellar. And as he's there, he turns around and Mia's standing in the corner, and she levitates towards him and flies towards him and starts to fight him. Oh, and she has the box cutter. She slices his arm or whatever. They fight for a second, but it's not much of a fight. Mia overpowers him pretty much instantly, and she starts to drown him. And she's gonna drown him. She's almost gonna kill him. But Eric once again shows up with the crowbar and has knocked out Mia. But Mia has taken the box cutter and has stuck it into his stomach. And that ultimately, I guess, is what killed Eric. Because Eric slumps over in the water. And then David goes over and he's like, "Oh, Eric, And then Eric is like, "I'm dead." And then David's like, "All right, I'm just going to put you down in the water now."
Yes.
such a weird thing to just be like, "All right, I guess you're going to stay here now," and just puts him down in the water. So yeah, Eric went through a lot of shit in this movie, and now he's dead. David goes over to his sister, sticks her in the back of the neck with that sleepy time medicine, and that makes her stay asleep longer. He gets her up top. He digs a hole. He puts her in ties her up, puts a bag over her head, and gets her in the hole. He's starting to bury her, and they do have a cool shot where he goes in the dirt and moves it over, and you see her face laying there, and he throws dirt and then moves back and gets more dirt, and then when it comes back, her eyes are open and she's looking at him. And she's talking as Mia now. She's like, "Why are you doing this, David?" But he's like, "You're not my sister. Stop talking to me," or whatever. So she gives up that act. She starts talking shit about the mom, how he never visited her, and all this stuff. But David just starts to bury her faster.
Yeah.
And finally, she is buried alive, and we can hear the heartbeat going. Also, there's a tree there that's on fire that got struck by lightning. Yeah, it's just sitting there in the background.
And I don't know. It gets struck. Well, okay, I figured it out now.
Okay.
So when that tree gets struck by lightning, that's what gives him the idea to use the defibrillator, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, because I thought the fire did something in his mind.
Yeah.
But no, it was the lightning that.
Uh-huh.
So, anyway, sorry.
All right. Yeah, so he buries her, and finally we hear the heartbeat stop, and then the fire on the tree goes out at the same time. So he takes that as his cue to start digging frantically to get her up, which I don't know if you've ever heard this, but in real life, they buried that girl alive. And so him digging real fast to get her out is because she legitimately was buried under a bunch of dirt and shit, which I appreciate, I guess, the commitment, but I don't know about, being like, yeah, you guys can bury me. Also, I'd be afraid, like, knowing that she's down there, I'd be afraid, like, you go too far and the shovel, and you, like, jab her in the neck or whatever. But whatever. Digs her up, pulls her out, takes the needle things and the defibrillator and sticks them in the chest, starts zapping her a bunch. And they really, really play up the fact that, she's dead. She's not going to come back,
Yeah.
They really play it up. So much so, because I knew, like, she comes back. So much that I forgot how much. Like, I wrote down my notes, all right, he zaps her and she comes back to life. And then I was like, they're still acting like she's dead. Oh, man, they're still acting. Oh, he's getting up and walking away still, But finally, it's when he gets up and walks away that then he hears, like, David? And he turns around and the sister's standing there. And she's back alive. She's clear. Her soul has been purified. This is when she's like, it was awful, all those things. She, like, remembers everything. Also, I guess the stuff she did as a Deadeye doesn't remain because her skin isn't bubbled. Her tongue isn't split open. She's, like, clear-faced and stuff. So I guess that goes away as well. So that's cool. You don't have to live with a split tongue the rest of your life. Well, then, but then that chick that got her arms cut off and stuff, she didn't. But I get whatever. So she's back alive. He's like, all right, nice job. I'm gonna go inside and get the keys, and we're gonna get out of here. So David goes inside. He goes to get the keys. He's about to leave, but before he does that, he turns around and looks at a family picture of the mom and all of them. And he goes and he gets it, and he gets the picture, and then it pans the camera, and we see Deadeye Eric, who is here now, and he takes that box cutter and sticks it in the side of David's neck. And David sort of stumbles around out into the living room. The sister sees him, and David somehow, as he's stabbed through the neck, is able to talk perfectly. He's like, you need to get out of here. There's no like, you know what I mean?
What was
that? Yeah, so he's like, you need to leave, but she isn't going to leave. So finally he's like, all right, let's get out of here. And it's like, let's go. And so he just gets her out and then pushes her. And he's like, I'm sorry. He closes the door and takes the lighter, throws it down. Whole house goes up on fire. David, after being the hero of the movie for 85% of it, is now dead, along with Eric. Eric is dead again. And, the house is on fire. We don't need no water. Yeah, however,
Burn.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Jimmy. So,
Thanks for that.
Yeah, no problem. Oh no, he doesn't even throw down the lighter. He shoots the gas can with the shotgun.
He shoots with the shotgun.
Yeah. Does that work in real life? Because there's a bunch of movies that do that. Yeah, I didn't think so.
So what it is, it's the same as shooting like a car's gas tank. Like you have to have a spark to ignite it.
Yeah.
Those jugs are plastic.
Yeah.
So metal through plastic doesn't make a spark. That's why, like, if you're working on anything as gasoline, they always tell you to use a rubber mallet or like a plastic hammer.
Gasoline.
Almost gasoline. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was dancing, but you couldn't see it.
Yeah. Outside, I guess David either left the necklace outside or it got blown out when the stuff happened. I don't, but it's sitting outside. This is what, because David had the necklace through the whole movie, so it's like, oh, did he take it off when he went back in there, and then he was vulnerable? You know what I mean? And yeah, so maybe that's what the necklace. But besides that, she just puts the necklace back on. Now she's wearing it. She starts to walk away, but then as she's walking away, all of a sudden in the distance, you just hear bum bum bum, bum bum bum, and that this is a Slayer joke, Maverick. Wait.
Oh my god!
Silent. Slayer, because then it just starts raining blood, and blood is now pouring from the sky. And she's like, "Well, that's probably not good." And then, crawling up out of the ground from the pits of hell, is the abomination, which has the same face as possessed Mia. And also, it first looked like it was like on four, like big lanky, like a animal, but then it ends up being like and like standing up straight. So it might still be able to walk like that, but it's like it's just a big person type thing. It gets out. Yeah, it crawls up out of the ground and shit. Mia gets inside the Jeep and tries to start it and get away. But the abomination breaks through the glass and grabs her by the leg, and it like boils her skin. It like burns her, I guess, because she's from hell, so it's getting hot, and burns her leg. Mia gets out the other side of the Jeep, and then maybe the stupidest thing the whole movie she does. She just crawls into that hole from Antichrist where Willem Dafoe had that fight with the crow in the hole. And she just crawls in there.
Weird analogy there, but all right.
That's all. When she went in there, I was like, is she going to come across the crow and have to beat it to death? But she crawls in there. This is the same hole that Grandpa the dog was in where he died. She crawls in, but not even all the way. She just crawls in, like leaving her legs out of the hole. And then she's just like, I hope I'm safe here. Like, it was so weird. She just stops moving. And then eventually she turns around and the abomination's like, standing behind her. So she goes crawling more and crawls up out of the hole into the tool shed. And this is finally when Mia goes over and grabs the chainsaw that we saw earlier. It's empty, so she has to get gas, which she pours in it and also all over the chainsaw. She not very good at aiming that. I'll give her an excuse that she's frantic. She goes to put the cap back on, but she drops it and it rolls away and it rolls right over to the abomination who's sitting there. And it's like, So Mia grabs the chainsaw again, goes running in between like this crawl space type area between the walls, and she's trying to rev up the chainsaw. As she's doing this, the abomination starts to stab through the wall with a machete, and maybe in a movie full of teeth grinding like pain moments, it stabs through and Mia is like, her knees are up and it goes through the top of her knee and then it like slides back out, and I was like,
it was pretty brutal.
Yeah. And so it's still stabbing through. It stabs through like her arm again at one point and doing all this. So finally Mia just busts out the board that leads to outside. She just busts it out and gets outside once again. She goes underneath the Jeep and is finally able to get the chainsaw working. And so she uses it to cut off both of the abomination's ankles or whatever, and like slices them. Yeah. She's like, cool, that's pretty cool. But the abomination still really strong, so it takes the Jeep as she's crawling out of it and flips it. And so Mia's trying to get out of there unscathed, but the Jeep lands directly on top of her hand and like crushes it. The abomination then comes crawling around to her side and is like, "You're dead, bitch. I'm gonna kill you." You know. And finally, Mia's like, "Fuck you," and she just pulls her hand off of her arm, just like ripping all the and just pulls her hand free. She gets up, has the chainsaw. The abomination is like, I'm going to feast on your soul. And then Mia says, feast on this motherfucker. And sticks the chainsaw through its head. And just gallons of blood being splashed in Mia's face. Blood is raining down around them. The cabin is on fire in the background. She slices down the abomination's body. And eventually the abomination is just like in half, a bloody mess. His eyeball is still blinking at her though. Yeah. And the abomination sinks back down into hell. And it stops raining blood. Slayer goes back to their cave.
There's no Slayer.
Yeah. She picks up. What is this? Oh, she picks up the necklace again, puts it back on, and then basically like looks at the camera, but not really. She's like looking past it, but just having a nice little hero shot. And then she starts to walk away from the house. And as it does that, the camera then pans down, and we see the Necronomicon frantically flipping pages, and the book slams shut, and then it goes black. And once again, we get the Evil Dead title card that we've been over. Is pretty cool. And that is the end of the movie. If you stick around for the credits, about halfway through the credits, it starts to play the voice recorder from the original one that we talked about with the guys like the Necronomicon and the Book of the Dead and talking about his wife and shit. And then at the very end of the credits, we get a scene of Bruce Campbell as Ash, where it's just like half his face, and then he turns to the camera and he says "groovy," and that's his little.
I didn't see that part.
Yeah, that's his little stamp of approval on the Evil Dead movie, and that is Evil Dead from 2013. Tyler, this movie had a budget of $17 million, made a box office of $97 million. So
How much?
97. So
I'm sorry. What was the? I missed both numbers.
budget was 17, made
Okay, and
97.
it made 97, so 80
Yeah.
million.
Yeah. I read that they had plans to do a Army of Darkness 2, and it was going to be about Mia. Mia was going to be the star of that. And then they were going to have a third movie that then would be Mia and Ash. But they never went through with that. And then the Ash vs. Evil Dead show started up, and then that show got canceled after like 3 seasons. And now I think they're on the verge of making another Evil Dead movie with Ash. And I'm not sure if that's going to take place where the Evil Dead show ended or what they're doing. But there's a lot of Evil Dead stuff going on. There's a lot of news with Ash doing that. There's the game that just came out that I probably won't play.
It's really good. Have you seen it?
I saw a couple story missions, but that's about all I
Oh.
paid attention to.
So like it's like Dead by Daylight, where like some people play as the survivors, the people, and then
Yeah.
one person plays as the Deadite,
Yeah,
and then you summon and do whatever.
yeah,
I thought it was pretty cool, but
yeah.
you know,
So,
I'm better than you.
Yeah. Let's do best of worst of for Evil Dead. My best of. Boy. My best of is gonna be Olivia stabbing Eric in the face over and over with that needle. It's just so, and him pulling out it's just, yeah, every time. That was the first time I watched this movie, I was like, Jesus Christ. So that's my best of. Worst of, I'm gonna say a very specific moment. That scene after the girlfriend dies, the blonde chick, and then Eric just laughs randomly. Didn't like it. Then they cut, and he never does that again. It wasn't like he was turning into a deadite after that. It just kind of seemed they were like, and then we'll have him laugh. Didn't like it. That's my worst of. So, Tyler, what's your best of worst of for Evil Dead?
This is a hard one. I've been copping out lately and saying like, the visual aspects and stuff like that. But like, I feel like this movie really nailed the gore.
Yeah.
Like, and like sometimes it's a little too cartoonish, a little whatever.
Uh,
But like this movie had the right mix of like blood, painful situations, like anguish. I don't know how else to say it.
yeah.
Like it wasn't just like you got chopped in the shoulder and it shoots out 33 gallons. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
it
yeah.
was like I don't know.
Mm.
It's just good. I'm trying to think of like a specific, like
Uh-huh.
thing I liked about it. So this is proving to be harder for me. Um,
It's not the only thing that's hard.
hey, my pee. Um, you're like, yeah, that was the joke, asshole.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. It's so I can't even. Like I said, the only downside would have to be the story. All right, like it. I would have given this such a better thing if any of it made sense. It's like they wrote this after watching the other ones, right?
Uh-huh.
And instead of including the stuff, like they wrote, like say they wrote down like 15 things,
Yeah.
and they're like, "This is the flow of the story," and they went, it's way too long.
Uh-huh.
Oh, we don't need this, and then they took out enough to where it's like it's no longer chicken soup, right? It's just soup,
Uh-huh.
And you're like, you're missing the best parts, guys.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's just me being a weirdo. It's I don't know. So the worst part's the story. The other worst part is why that girl shot herself in the face with nails.
That's just to look
Um,
cool. She, yeah.
but no, that's the problem is that nail guns don't work like that. And this one did for some reason.
Yeah.
And she started just shooting them around. I don't get me
Oh,
wrong.
yeah.
If you like pull the safety or whatever,
Uh-huh.
you can shoot them.
Yeah.
But this lady was one arming it because that's all she had.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And I think at the end, if you rip your hand off, you're gonna die.
Uh-huh.
Like there's no way to stop that bleeding. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
there's no way to rip your hand off unless it was like smashed, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, those are the bad. The
Yeah, because,
good,
like, that's how, like, emo chicks kill themselves, is, like, the slicing the wrist. Well, then if your wrist is gone, right?
Jesus.
Then your wrist is gone. It's like, isn't that the the artery,
I can't believe
Ah.
we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
God. Anyways, um, you're probably right though.
Yeah.
Um, and another problem I had with it was the fucking dude, the main character, seems to take everything so matter of factly.
Yeah.
I wish he knew why.
Yeah.
Like all the dead cats, he's like, I'll take care of those in the morning. Don't worry
Yeah.
about that. Oh, let me go get her. Oh, my junkie sister took off with the car.
Uh-huh.
Better to go see what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's just like, but to have freak the fuck out a little.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
again,
Which is very different from like Ash in the original one. He was the one that was like that first Evil Dead movie. Ash, what he becomes is not like Ash in that movie is not Ash. Like he's like the scared dude in the group.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
it's like I said, I don't know. I know I haven't said anything I actually liked about this movie, but
Yeah.
it's like it's a good movie. Like I watched it and I was entertained.
Mm-hmm.
The only issue I has is what I've already said, but
Yeah.
it just I don't know. It's good because, like I said, all the effects are amazing. There's not one effect in this where I'm like, meh. Like
Uh-huh.
I just I don't know. I don't know why I gave it as good of a rating as I did. Because now that I'm looking back and we've talked about it and we went over it again and everything else, I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
But I would tell people to watch this. That's why I gave it as high as I did because like it seems decent.
I don't know if you gave it as high as you think you did.
I gave it what I give it a 6.
You gave it a 5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but 5's good.
Yeah, 5 is middle of the road for me.
Well, it's the same for me. Like I said, if you want a stupid movie that you just sit down and watch, and you're like, "Wow, this is it," right?
Yeah.
Because it's pretty much nonstop action.
Yeah, yeah,
Like even from the get go, you watch it, and 3 minutes in, they're burning a lady.
yeah,
So, and you're like, "What the fuck," you know? And
yeah,
then you have a little lull, but and
yeah.
you're watching it, and it's great. But like, it's nonstop action. It's like, I would say it's like a slasher film more than it is anything else, right? And you get no time to understand evil Mia, right?
Yeah.
It's like, y'all be dead by the night. And it's
Yeah.
like, why? Hold on,
Well,
excuse
yeah.
me, ma'am. But why are
Yeah.
you killing us?
I mean,
Can I leave?
yeah. To me, that's how they've always been.
Yeah.
I mean, they just once they pop up, it's just like, oh, all right.
And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But anyway,
But like I said, it's
I'll go out on a limb and say that this is the best horror remake, if you can consider it a remake, that they ever did. So
ever like, or just for this series.
ever.
Really?
Yeah.
No, we can talk about that. I don't know. There's got to be a
Close
better
second,
remake.
obviously, Friday the 13th, 2009. But, but I don't know. Well, then you get weird because like The Thing is technically a remake, but like it's a remake of a novel, and like
No, it's a 1950s movie of it.
yeah, but the 1950 movie is based on a novel that then John Carpenter's movie is based off of as well.
I don't know. I think it kind of blows all this remake stuff out the water.
I don't know. It has the same problem that the original one did, where it's really good when it's the kids, and then when it's the adults, it's kind of like, eh.
How dare you?
Yeah. I saw the other day they were talking about like horror and kids or whatever, and then someone was talking about it, and this lady was like 12 to 15 is the perfect age for kids to read it because they're too young to be, or they're too old to be freaked out by all the dark stuff, and they're too young to be creeped out by the sexualization of preteen girls. And she said that, and I was about to comment. I was like, or how about the full-on kid orgy gangbang at the end?
Yeah. Right.
No one ever seems to mention that about it, how Stephen King just straight up wrote a kid orgy at the end of that thing.
Yeah, and it's
kind of weird and gross when you think about it. Like, and everyone's like, man, this is literature. The other day,
it's strange. I don't know about gross.
Yeah, the other day you made some post on Facebook. It was like, get high, you deserve it or something. And someone commented like, don't smoke pot, read a book.
Read a book.
And you were like, every good book has been written by someone on pot. And
that's
then
a comedy. Who's that guy who does that?
Bill Hicks? Bill Hicks, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he was, or that person was like, I doubt it or whatever. And I was literally about to comment, Stephen King has no memory of writing anything before 1990, whatever, because he was so high on cocaine. He has no idea how he did any of it. So
yeah, that was my buddy Larry. He's something else.
Shout out Larry.
Nah, I was gonna say. I was gonna tell you some stuff about Larry, but I forgot we were probably what we're recording.
Anyway, all right.
Fuck that guy.
Well, I think that's I think that's about it for Evil Dead. Thanks for listening. Next week, Tyler, I promised it.
No.
Yeah, I promised
we already
it.
watched the game.
Yeah. See No Evil 2 is coming. I promised it. We're watching a movie that I talk shit about a lot. I did not like it.
Really?
Yeah, I did not like it at all when I saw it first time. Maybe things have changed. Maybe I'll hate it even more the second time. But we're watching Ari Aster's follow-up to Hereditary, which is one of my favorites, which with Midsummer. So, starring that Florence Pugh, however you pronounce her name. Who now she's like in Marvel shit all the time and super famous. She's the replacement Black Widow. Her sister.
That bitch is hot. I mean, that lady is amazing.
No, she's hot.
Yeah.
I think yeah.
I was
don't
worried
think-
about the bitch word, not the
Well,
hot.
oh, not the hot part.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the hot was fine. It was the bitch that I was
But-
like, oh.
yeah. Cat Williams has the thing where he's like, "Ladies, I'm only calling you bitches because I don't know your names individually." And then someone's like, "But you do know her name," and like, So, yeah. Anyway, also shout out Cat Williams made a new special. I was really excited for it. Really bad. Didn't like it. He does straight up 30 minutes. His last 30 minutes of that special is just about like fucking and about like vagina. It's like Cat Williams has always been really good with like political commentary and like these wild jokes and stuff. And he throws in that stuff too. But literally half of his special is just about that. And then the other half he's like, Biden's pretty old, right? Vagina. Like it just didn't like it. Probably my least favorite Cat Williams special he ever made. Anyway, next week, Midsummer. We're finally gonna watch it, so that'll be something. Yeah. So, like I said, the 2nd year anniversary came out Sunday. Us talking about our top 10 favorite horror movies. If you haven't watched that, go check it out. Monday coming out will be Smoke Break for The Northman. So get ready for that. If you haven't watched The Northman, go watch it in preparation for Monday. And that'll be pretty cool. Shout out that movie. Yeah. Tyler, got anything? What's up?
No, I still like The Northman. I know you
Yeah.
watched it a second time, and maybe you feel some kind of way.
No,
about
it's still
it.
pretty good. There was just some stuff that I didn't realize the guy did so many times in the movie. But anyway.
Like, look off into the camera.
He would just look into the camera and he's like, I will smite my enemies and I will be a plague upon this land. And he says it's like 4 times he does it. But
Did you think he looked like
no, he doesn't
Two-Face?
look like Two-Face. Have you seen this show, Gotham Knights? That
No.
spoiler, they kill Batman in first episode and he's not even wearing the bat suit. He's just wearing like a tuxedo and the bat mask. And then he's like dead. And so now I guess it's supposed to be Hawkeye. Wait. I guess it's supposed to be fucking Robin and Nighthawk. Is that his name?
Nightwing?
What's that? Nightwing. Nighthawk is from Mortal Kombat.
Is that the Indian?
Yeah,
Native
yeah.
American?
Shout out Nighthawk. He was always one of my favorite characters. He's not in that many games though.
Yeah. Then we took his land.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, and people have been talking about how it's like terrible. And I saw they have 2 faces in it, and like his face, it's just straight up like half of his face is just fucking. It looks weird. I guess that's Two-Face's whole thing.
That was
now.
the long.
Anyway. Oh, Tyler, while I have you, before we end, so let's say, Tyler, you're playing a game, okay? You have a deck of
Alright.
cards sitting in front of you, okay? That's
Oh,
all
cool.
spread out, right? You pick up
Am I
one.
wearing pants?
Yeah.
Okay.
You pick up one card. It's an ace of
So
spades.
it's not like me, but okay.
Okay, it's an ace of spades, right? So now you
Tasty.
you have the ace of spades in your hand, and now all the other cards are laid out. You can't see them. Your goal is to turn over another card and find the ace of spades. If it's a different card, turn it back down and you start over. You remember where the ace of spades is, and and you try to find until eventually they're all gone. What do you call that game?
Memory.
Fuck. All right. Well,
Who-
that's
who-
2 for mom. My dad calls it concentration or something. Okay, I call it the match game. And then my mom, we asked her, and she said it was memory.
I want to say concentration was that game where you take the pieces and you put it in the board, and then after like 30 seconds it pops. You know?
yeah, and
And it's all about
a
concentrating.
shower.
What?
Concentration. Okay.
Good lord.
Anyway, guys.
And you called it the match game. I mean, it is the match game, but the match game was based off of
Yeah.
that. So
Alright.
you're right, but new, and she's right,
Okay.
but old.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, well, all that matters is that Dad wasn't right. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for listening. Monday, The Northman, and then next week, Midsummer. And we'll see you then. All right. Bye.
See ya.